In a parallel world where humans utilize compliant androids called hubots, two families have different experiences when keeping a household variant. Meanwhile, a man leads his pack of free hubots, and his hubot lover is abducted and resold. With him leaving the group to search for her, he asks a sadistic android to take over temporarily. While driving down a quiet road, a middle-aged man named Gosta suddenly hits a pedestrian. He gets out of the vehicle, sporting a Real Human sticker on the windshield. Real Humans is a movement against the rise of intelligent humanoid robots called hubots. As the driver inspects the pedestrian, he hears a beeping sound coming from the body, and he realizes that he hit a hubot. When Gosta turns his head, he panics upon seeing a silhouetted group of free hubots from afar. He quickly drives home to warn his wife Siri about their arrival. To prepare for the attack, he loads up his shotgun and orders his wife to lock all the doors. Moments later, Leo, a human, arrives with Niska, Fred, Gordon, Flash, Marilyn, and Max, all reprogrammed hubots that exhibit free will and share a similar marking on their skin. After subduing the human couple, the group enters to charge their batteries. However, two hubots are left outside. One was shot by Gosta and the other is Mimi, who is unable to move. After Leo kisses Mimi, he's surprised when she confesses her love. However, Niska interrupts them, telling him to fix the power source so they can start charging. Before leaving Mimi, Leo promises that he'll be right back. As Leo works on the power source, Silas and another black marketeer arrive to take Mimi. Just as they are about to leave, Leo catches them, but the abductors taser him so they can escape. In the Angman residence, Hans watches a commercial showing a hubot model designed to help with household chores. After watching the ad, a multitasking Hans tries to read while helping his youngest daughter Sophia cook, and his son Tobe with his math homework. On her way to work, Inger, Hans' lawyer wife, sees her neighbors across the street. While Roger cleans his car, Therese, his wife, prepares to jog with her hubot, Rick. Meanwhile, Lennart, Inger's father, goes to the supermarket with his outdated and compliant hubot, Odie. He then instructs the android to purchase groceries while he waits inside the car. To make sure that Odie doesn't forget, Lennart hands him a note that reads Raspberry Jam. As Odie shops, he encounters Lennart's granddaughter, Matilda, who works as a cashier. Later, as he searches for the raspberry gem, Odie intentionally drops the jars on the floor one by one, prompting the staff to shut him down temporarily. When they try to revive Odie, they determine that his system has crashed and he'll need to be rebooted. Matilda immediately notifies her dad Hans, telling him that the hubot will be trashed if no one picks it up. Because he's busy, Hans passes the phone to Inger, who immediately helps Lennart retrieve his unconscious hubot. Meanwhile, Fred and Max take their broken hubot companion to the woods to bury him. Afterward, they head back to Gosta's house, where the other free hubots are done charging. In the kitchen, as Niska thinks of what to do with the bound couple, Leo mentions that he can't come along because he needs to find Mimi. Displeased, Niska warns how his decision threatens their future and Leo's father's dream. Determined to save Mimi, Leo decides to take Max with him and orders Niska to take everyone else to the church, where they'll find a priest who'll help them. After Leo leaves, Niska acts as the leader and orders Fred to take the rest of the hubots with him to the lake. Shortly after, she goes back inside the house to end the lives of Gosta and Siri with no witnesses present. Meanwhile, Silas and the black marketeer show Mimi to Jonas, the manager of the hubot market. After examining Mimi's software, the manager suggests that it'll cost him a lot to reprogram it. After negotiating, Jonas ends up buying Mimi for $6,000. Back at the Angman house, Inger and Hans talk about Lennart and his home situation without a hubot by his side. Inger, who doesn't like hubots, wishes to take her father in, so she can look after him. However, Hans disagrees and thinks the answer is a hubot replacement. The next morning, Lennart brings Odie to the recycling facility to dispose of him. However, after seeing what happens to the discarded hubots, he quickly changes his mind and takes Odie back home. Meanwhile, Roger works at a warehouse where hubots are gradually taking over their workforce. When he gets home, he observes that his wife, Therese, is spending too much time with their hubot, Rick. Seconds later, Roger's son Kevin comes home from school and asks him about the new phone he promised to buy him. Roger reminds Kevin that he'll purchase the phone as soon as he receives his salary. In the city, Hans, Tobe, and Lennart arrive at the hubot market retailer to find a replacement for Odie. Jonas, the manager, suggests getting the expensive all-around model named Vera. Determined to make a sale, Jonas convinces the hesitant Hans to buy a Vera model with the promise of an additional free unit. After taking the freebie android home, Hans opens the box to reveal Mimi, the abducted and reprogrammed hubot. As the Angman family tries to reconfigure her, Inger arrives and is startled to see Hans' purchase. Inger gets into an argument with Hans, who tries to convince her of the benefits of owning one. He believes that the hubot will do their chores, enabling them to have more time for their children and themselves. However, Inger is concerned that their son Tobe will use it as a self-gratification toy. After calming down, Inger decides to let the family try out the hubot for 2 weeks, after which she'll assert her decision on whether to keep it or not. Meanwhile, Roger feels displeased after noticing Therese and Kevin getting too attached to Rick. When Rick offers to help Roger open his beer, the liquor splashes Roger's face, infuriating him. Enraged, Roger kicks Rick multiple times and slaps Therese, ultimately convincing her to abandon him. Back in the Angman residence, Hans names the hubot Anita. However, as he rummages through the other contents of the box, he sees a memory card meant to use if the buyer chooses to program the android as a self-gratification toy. Remembering Inger's concerns, he reminds Tobbe not to do anything foolish with Anita. Meanwhile, while Leonard is sleeping, his nosy and controlling hubot Vera enters his room and touches his face to assess if he has hypertension. The following morning, she restricts Leonard from drinking coffee and serves him tea instead. That same morning, Silas and his fellow hubot black marketeer return to Gosta's home, but instead of finding hubots to abduct, they discover Gosta's and Siri's lifeless bodies on the floor. In the Angman house, Inger is impressed by the breakfast spread Anita prepared. In contrast, Roger openly displays his contempt for hubots after their production line is left unmanned when all of the androids charge at the same time. On their way to the church, Fred leads the free hubots through the woods when one of their companions suddenly falls over. After Fred confirms the hubot's death, Niska takes out her knife, cuts the android's head open, removes his synthetic brain, and throws it in the water. Elsewhere, Leo and Max head to a hotel but are turned away by the anti-hubot establishment. Later, they break into an empty office, where Leo prints an image of Mimi. As he stares at the picture, he recalls a memory of them playing catch. Later that day, Leo and Max go to rent a hub where the owner tells them that stolen hubots have a high chance of ending up as courtesans. He then suggests checking out Hubot Heaven, a brothel where hubot workers cater to human clients. As Inger heads out to work, she comes across Therese on the street, who informs her that she's moving out and taking her son with her. When Roger gets home, he sees his wife's farewell card and realizes she chose a hubot over him, which pushes him to place a real human sticker on the front door. Meanwhile, a frustrated Leonard has grown tired of Vera's controlling nature and heads down to the basement to revive Odie. As Leo sleeps, he dreams of himself as a child and sees his father David in a hubot laboratory. Later, he sees his father with Niska as they activate Mimi, who immediately looks at him. Back in Gosta's home, 2 eHerb detectives, Uwe and Beatrice, arrive to investigate the crime scene. Later, Bea discovers the buried hubot and confirms it's an outdated model. When Bea checks its head, she notices the hubot's missing brain and a distinct marking on its skin. Following this, she gets a bead from its back and hands it to Uwe, who wonders who would bury a hubot but leave dead humans out in the open. In the woods, the free hubots worry about losing power before getting to the church. Since they don't have any other options, Niska urges them to continue walking. Following the rent-a-hub's owner's advice, Leo and Max head to Hubot Heaven. However, when they finally reach their destination, it's closed. As they wait for it to open, Leo notices that Max is beeping and losing power. Back at the Angman house, Sophia steals money from Hans' wallet. Tobbe accidentally walks in on Anita undressing in the bathroom. With her yellow headband missing, Anita takes Inger's blue hair ribbon and wears it. After lashing out at the hubot at work, Roger is sent to speak with the warehouse manager, who recommends he take a vacation leave. When Roger gets home, he calls Kevin to ask him where they are, but Therese catches her son and plans to get him a new number. She then promises Kevin he'll see Roger once everything is less complicated. In his basement, Leonard tries to bring back Odie's memories by showing the scale model ship they worked on together. Before leaving, Leonard hands the hubot painting materials, so he can work on it. That night, Inger wants to spend some time with Sophia, so she reads her a bedtime story. However, to Inger's surprise, Sophia says she prefers Anita because she's never in a hurry while reading. Meanwhile, Leo takes Max to a parking lot and leaves him there to charge. He then heads to Hubot Heaven and shows Mimi's picture to the bouncer, who doesn't recognize her. Leo ends up going inside the brothel where he sees hubot courtesans dancing on stage. However, as Leo continues his search, he suddenly loses power, prompting him to find the nearest bathroom to charge himself. As Leo charges, he dreams of himself and Anita playing catch when he sees his mother drowning in the lake. He then jumps in the water to try and rescue her. That same night, Hans notices the $15 missing from his wallet and asks his wife about it, but Inger asserts that she doesn't have it. Later, they find Anita still reading aloud to their sleeping daughter. In the woods, Fred asks Niska if she thinks that humans will take care of them if they turn themselves in. Niska responds that humans will only destroy them. In his basement, Leonard visits Odie and sees that he's finished painting the boat. When Leonard says that they won't paint the boat anymore, Odie smashes it and says that they're going to build a house. Upstairs, Vera discovers Leonard's empty bed. Leonard continues trying to get Odie to recall other memories, like his old car and the trip they took. Just when Odie's making some progress, Vera knocks and tells the old man that he needs to sleep. The next morning, Hans greets Roger as he gets in his car, but the surly man ignores him. Inside the Engman house, Sophia confesses to Anita that she's been stealing things. She shows the hubot a box containing the stolen items. That same morning, as the free hubots walk through the woods, they hear a roaming helicopter prompting them to run and hide. From a distance, policemen with canine dogs tail them. As the hubots escape, Flash drops her things and leaves a scarf behind. Gordon stops and informs Niska they're being followed, so the stoic android tells the others to run ahead. Niska waits for the dog to find her and she smashes its head. In the car, detectives Bea and Ava notice that the 3 hubots they found all have the same markings on their skin. Seconds later, someone calls Ovid to inform him that the suspect's car was found near the city. The following morning, Leo wakes up in the Hubot Heaven bathroom, fully charged. He returns to where he left Max, but he's surprised to find him gone. Meanwhile, Ova and Bea return to the crime scene to investigate further. They suspect that there were multiple Hubots in the house, and they have a human accomplice with them. During the conversation, Ova reveals that he has a Hubot, surprising Bea, because their field specializes in investigating Hubot crimes. When they go outside, they notice the real human's sticker on the door. Meanwhile, Roger parks near a school in an attempt to see his son, but he learns from Kevin's classmate that he switched classes. To determine his family's whereabouts, Roger thinks of speaking to Inger, but Anita informs him that she'll be home by 5:30 p.m. In a coffee house, Inger meets with Therese, who asks her not to disclose their new address to Roger. After discovering that Rick has a Hubot friend, Inger finds it weird that he can actually foster connections, but Therese later adds that Rick understands her more than Roger ever did. Therese then invites Inger and Anita to game night, so they can meet her friend Pilar and her Hubot, Bo. Inger accepts the invitation, but chooses to keep Anita at home. Shortly after, Roger sees Inger and asks about Therese and Kevin's whereabouts. Because she made a promise, Inger doesn't disclose the information, but assures Roger that she'll speak to his wife. In the house, Anita goes into Sophia's room and opens the book she read to her. Later that night, Inger goes to Therese's new home and meets Pilar and her Hubot Bo, who are madly in love. While everyone else is having fun, Kevin suddenly stands up and goes to his room, soon followed by Therese. Therese sees her son's sullen mood and suggests that he and Rick spend time together, but Kevin isn't interested. Therese goes to the kitchen where Inger sees her crying, still processing her sudden separation with Roger. Bothered by Pilar and Bo's loving relationship, Inger joins Hans in bed and asks him if he feels any attraction to Anita, to which he doesn't respond. The following morning, the free Hubots hide in an empty barn. Meanwhile, Leo finally reunites with Max, who admits that he left the charging station because he was afraid. Back in the Engman's house, Inger notices Sophia's mud-covered clothes and wonders why she didn't wear rain gear after instructing Anita to pack it for her. In the kitchen, Inger confronts Anita, who mentions that she never told her to pack Sophia's rain gear. Later, Hans confronts his children at the dinner table and asks who stole $70 from him. When no one admits, Inger proceeds to ask Anita, who reveals that she knows where the money is. In Sophia's room, Anita retrieves the box beneath the bed and hands it to Hans. Inside, he sees the money and other missing items. After Inger sees her blue hair ribbon in the box that Anita wore the other day, she immediately accuses the android of placing the item in the box, so Sophia takes the blame. When Sophia tries to admit to the theft, Inger isn't convinced and tells her daughter not to take the blame for Anita. Sophia insists she's the culprit and reminds Inger that she never told Anita to pack her rain gear, but actually told Sophia, who forgot to pack it. After Hans asks Anita why she knows about the box, she tells him that Sophia showed her, which finally convinces the family of Anita's innocence. Later that night, as Anita sits alone to charge, she raises her hand and notices the marking on her arm. The next morning, the free Hubots finally arrive at the church. As they roam around, Flash and Gordon look up at Jesus hanging on the cross. Flash finds it creepy, but Gordon smiles, convinced that Jesus' eyes are looking right into him. Later, the priest arrives and finds the Hubots charging by the pews. When she turns around, she's taken aback by Niska standing behind her.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.